This is the Truth Squad podcast. This is episode number 2. My name is Eli, and I'm here with...
Of course, Sam.
And today we are going to be talking about a few different topics. I think we got some interesting things for you today. Today we're going to be telling you guys about the Bosnian Pyramids and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, I've got plenty of stuff over here. As far as the Bosnian Pyramids, they are the craziest things that you'll probably ever see if you really take a good look at it. I mean, a lot of mainstream scientists like to spit venom on that. And Dr. Sam Osmanagic, probably butchering his name, but he's fought tooth and nail to try and get legitimate scientists out there to discover or confirm his theories. I mean, he's even gone to the lengths of inviting different groups from different parts of the country, not revealing what previous results or even telling them what they were necessarily the findings were or anything like that, but had independent reviews of the same things that he's discovered and uncovered with the pyramids themselves, and they've actually confirmed each other consecutively.
So why would the scientists not want this to be mainstream?
Honestly, it's just to keep the status quo. I mean, governments in general do not want to change history. I mean, and a lot of scientific discoveries that are being made today are not making it back into education. They're not going back to colleges. They're not going back to the schools because they just don't want to change anything. It's the same thing with the history of man. Of course, they already know that civilizations have been communicating with each other pre-Columbian times, yet they still neglect to add that into the textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not a surprise that they want to suppress anything that has to do with the Bosnian Pyramids.
Mm. Wow.
So, as far as your recent investigations into the Emerald Tablets, what have you found so far?
Well, it's kind of a fascinating story, actually, because I remember that when I first read the story, I heard it. I think I heard something off of YouTube, and I was fascinated by it. So I went ahead and did a little bit of research, and I found the actual written documents of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and it was written by Doreal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember...
Is that Dr. Doreal, is that a self-given title, or did he actually earn a doctorate?
I don't know if he actually earned a doctorate. When I was kind of doing the research, it didn't really specify whether or not he actually got his doctorates. But I do know that Doreal is not even his real name.
Ooh, that's interesting. Why don't we elaborate on that?
Yeah, his real name is actually Claude Doggins. And he was actually born in Sulphur Springs, Oklahoma. And real quick, before we kind of get into him, I remember going to you about the story when I first read it, because when I first got the Emerald Tablets, I read it all the way through. Mm-hmm. And I thought that it was a pretty fascinating story. I
even asked you to send it to me so that way I can read it, and then when I read it, I thought it was a great read. It was fantastical. However, a piece of me didn't buy that. I mean, as far as any even amateur investigator would even claim, you've got to start somewhere with a grain of truth, and the whole idea of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth was that he translated it from some sort of set of tablets, and then the tablets were never to be seen again. They were put away. There's mystery surrounding on where the tablets even were found. And
well, I think what is the worst part about it is that he was claimed to have channeled the tablets. So it wasn't even that he necessarily found them. It was that he was channeled the information from the White Lodge, so he calls it. the White Lodge of Masters, and they were the ones that provided him the information. And what's fascinating about it is that it kind of, the Emerald Tablets kind of appear out of nowhere. When it popped up, it was pretty big in the esoteric community for its time, which obviously in 1925 it probably would be, because that's when it was translated. It was in 1925. There is a couple fascinating things that I found regarding everything, and a few passages that I want to read real quick regarding it. One of the things is that in the Emerald Tablets they talk about the Hall of Records of Amenti.
Yeah.
They say in the tablets that it was put under the pyramids, and I hope that I can find this here.
The halls of Amenti under the pyramids.
Yeah, so
and that's not to be confused with the thing that's the spaceship that's underneath the Sphinx.
No. This is the actual halls of Amenti, and Thoth built the pyramid to cover up the halls of Amenti. So in the passage it says, "Now for a time I go from among them into the dark halls of Amenti, deep in the halls of the earth, before the lords of the powers, face to face once again with the dweller. Raised I high over the entrance a doorway, a gateway leading down to Amenti, for there would be with courage to dare it. Few pass the portal to dark Amenti. Raised over the passage, I, a mighty pyramid, using the power that overcomes earth force, deep and yet deeper place, a force, house, or chamber. From it carved I a circular passage, reaching almost to the great summit." Now what's fascinating about that is that we didn't even know about a said cave system that's under the pyramid. And mind you, this was translated supposedly back in 1925.
Yeah.
Well, apparently in, I think it was 2009, looks like in 2009 we actually discovered that there are a pretty extensive cave system that's actually underneath the pyramid. And I have this news report here off of NBC News, and I'd just like to read a little bit of it if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
It says, "An enormous system of caves, chambers, and tunnels lies hidden beneath the pyramids of Giza, according to a British explorer who claims to have found the lost underworld of the pharaohs. Populated by bats and venomous spiders, the underground complex was found in the limestone bedrock beneath the pyramid field at Giza. There is untouched archaeology, can't speak today, down there, as well as delicate ecosystem that includes colonies of bats and species of spiders, which have tentatively identified as the White Widow," British explorer Andrew Collins said. Collins, who will detail his findings in the book Beneath the Pyramids, to be published in September, tracked down the entrance to the mysterious world after the forgotten memoirs of a 19th century diplomat and explorer. In his memoirs, British Consul General Henry Salt recounts how he investigated an underground system of catacombs at Giza in 1817 in the company of Italian explorer Giovanni Caviglia, Collins said. So, right there, I'm going to stop because it sounds like that maybe back in the 1800s we may have already discovered them.
Yeah.
And if that's something that was known back in the 1800s,
but not readily discussed.
Right, not readily discussed, not publicly discussed, but Doreal had the knowledge of that. He could have written possibly his book off of that.
Now, speaking of Doreal's, well, how about we call him by his real name? Because I don't
Claude.
Let's call him Mr. Jean-Claude Diggins or whatever. Doggins, whatever his name is. Speaking of his knowledge base, doesn't he have connections to people who know lots of things from pretty important people?
I'm not sure about that, but what I do know is that he read some things from Helena Blavatsky and from her successor, any basalt.
So they weren't like close to each other?
Not that I could specifically find out. Now, doing the research, I can tell you that there are layers upon layers of things you need to research one area to find out more clues about another area. Mm-hmm. And when I find that, when researching something, I kind of feel like that there's a red flag there.
Yeah.
Because why is there so much fog, I guess, to find out who somebody is? Because, in my opinion, if Claude actually discovered these Emerald Tablets and actually translated them, there would have been a pretty clear and cut history of this man. Now, unfortunately, I've tried to do the best research that I can, and there's not a whole lot of diversity about him. Some of the things that are about him is after he supposedly translated these tablets, he actually built the the Brotherhood of the White Temple.
Oh.
Yeah, and he actually wrote all of the pamphlets for the Brotherhood of the White Temple, all the esoteric work.
Now, who's actually involved in the White Temple there?
Well, a little while ago I did research on that. Their page doesn't discuss much, but you can fill out an application form, and if you decide, or if they decide that you can join, then they'll actually send you the lessons in the mail. And then after you're done, you have to send them back. And
is there a fee for this?
Yeah,
sounds like a scam. Doesn't
yeah,
it?
it's a system type thing. However, what's fascinating is another thing that kind of happened after he built these temples. I guess during the Cold War era, he thought that we were basically going to get blown up, so he moved his temple into the mountains. Because he said
it's
that
the whole Waco, Texas thing.
It's kind of he said that he prophesied that the United States was going to be destroyed. Well, that never happened.
Well, not in the physical sense, but
right, not in the physical sense, but definitely. I mean, it's safe to say that we didn't have a nuclear bomb drop on us.
Yeah.
And that's what he was afraid of. So he moved the temple into the mountains. And I guess the way that he moved it, it was kind of like a fortified structure. So they're safe on, all fronts.
Basically like a fort.
So, when I hear stuff like that, if it happened, that's one thing. If it didn't happen, you're kind of starting to get a little loony on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. All in all, when I hear the Emerald Tablets, I think to myself, because the way that it's worded, I mean, it's almost hard for me to think that somebody could be that clever. However, I mean, he has a lot of red flags that surrounded him. And like you said, if somebody has that many red flags that's even a little sketchy trying to give information that's so great like that, you got to kind of be...
forthcoming.
Yeah, well, you got to be skeptical. I mean... There are few things that, like I said, are interesting. Like this other thing is that in the Queen's Chamber, he talks about in the Emerald Tablets how you'll find a pathway that ends in a wall, and that's the way to Amenti. So I also want to read that little passage, if I can find it here.
Yeah, but I believe what you're referring to is that passage that they found in the 90s with that camera on the little rover,
the little robot.
Yeah, the little robot camera, and they found that little wooden passage thing, very small thing.
Yeah, well, this other thing, and I don't know, because this is one of the most interesting things about what Doreal translated or Claude translated, was that, let me read this from the passage, and it's going to say, each to the other is the keystone, each the gateway that leads into life. Follow the key I leave behind me. Seek, and the doorway to life shall be thine. Seek thou in the pyramid, deep in the passage that ends in a wall. Well, what's fascinating about that is that we didn't find this passage that they're referring to until 1992.
Was it 92?
Yeah, it was 1992, and it actually, they sent a robot, like you said, through one of the shafts that's in the Queen's Chamber.
I remember, because I remember they watching it live, I believe it was.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on a documentary.
Yeah, and
where they were doing that.
Yeah, it was a real important breakthrough. I remember that. It was one of those things that stick in my head. I just can't remember exactly when it happened. I mean, that's...
Exactly, and
many moons ago.
And I'm going to post all these links on our website. That way you guys can see it. If you guys don't know the website right now, it's at truesquad.podbean.net. So, yeah, no. So if you ever want to see what we're kind of reading from at the end of our shows, we're going to have those links out there on their website for the show notes. But on guardians.net, it shows pictures of what the shaft looks like, and this shaft actually leads to a wall and stops. And reading from their website, it says, there is another similar air shaft visible below on the south wall. This shaft was the one that was explored by a small robot called, I'm going to butcher this name, Episde2 by Rudolf Gantenbrink.
I'm offended by that.
After a 250-foot ascent up this shaft, the robot finally discovered a flat limestone plug with 2 small pieces of copper attached to it. So, if you look at the picture, there's definitely a wall there with definitely 2 plugs of copper pieces attached to it. So, my question is why is that there? Why is there copper pieces attached to it? I find it weird that this kind of lines up.
Isn't that the only copper that's found within the pyramids?
As far as I believe, the other shafts don't have it.
Yeah.
And the only reason they call them air shafts is because that's the only way they can describe them. But they're not really air shafts because the only ones that actually go out are the ones that are on top of the pyramid that's above the king's chamber.
Yeah,
but the other ones
and the whole thing with the pyramids of Giza is that the mainstream scientists believe that it's a thing to tomb for kings.
Mm-hmm.
But never once did they find a body. Never once did they find a tomb. They've got a room where they call like the king's tomb, I think it was, that has a concrete box or a rock box. And funny enough is I remember hearing somewhere along the lines, I think it was Scott Wolter who was saying that and this may be completely wrong, I may be butchering it completely, so if this is not the person who said it, I do apologize. But from memory, they said that when they compared the measurements of that sarcophagus, is what they call that box in the king's tomb, it actually would fit exactly and precisely the same measurements that's described in the Bible for the Ark of the Covenant.
Really?
Now, there's a lot of theories out there that the Ark of the Covenant was actually some sort of energy source.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say that it was the manna machine that fed the Hebrews, the Israelites.
Well, isn't there also talk of the Ark of the Covenant potentially giving off radiation?
Absolutely.
And I thought that
anybody who who looked upon it or touched it without proper attire or respecting the gods would die a horrible death from their hair falling out. Basically, all the same symptoms that you would find for radiation sickness.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting itself. And back in those days, they didn't even know what radiation was, supposedly. Whether or not they did or didn't, I have no idea. But
well, it's funny that they think that, or the mainstream scientists want to believe that these pyramids are tombs for kings. I also find it funny that in these pyramids, supposedly they had torches in there where they lit fires.
No soot on
the walls.
No bodies ever found.
Exactly. And you see that. What is it that we are supposed to believe? Well, that's what we want to find out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I see things like this where there's copper plugs into the wall, what makes me, and something that's described in the Emerald Tablets, which is pretty fascinating to me, it's like, I don't know.
To me, my perspective of the whole thing is I believe that the saying that there's nothing new under the sun is completely true. So I honestly believe that the knowledge of this this wall that they found in 1992 was most likely found or hinted towards in the past, and only a select few people had that type of knowledge, and maybe Mr. Claude Doggins knew the right people and knew that it would be found one way or the other at some point in time in the future, whenever we were ready to accept that kind of information. What this will actually lead to, I don't know right now, because the whole mystery of the pyramids is definitely thick. But I honestly believe that through the research that Mr. Sam Osmanagic has been doing, or doctor rather, because I'm sure he earned his doctorate, because he's actually a member of the foreign member of the Russian Academy of Natural Science of Moscow. He's actually one of the most respected scientific institutions, which is one of the most respected scientific institutions in the world, rather. And he actually holds a PhD in Mayan studies, and he's a member of the Archaeological Society of Alexandria. So Dr. Sam Osmanagic definitely earned his doctorate. Mm-hmm. So when he says things, I kind of pay attention to it. And he's always open to new things. And with his discoveries of the Bosnian Pyramids, which, by the way, speaking of which, whenever you think of pyramids, what are the top places that you know of where pyramids might exist?
Well, I can tell you right off the hand, Egypt is
Right.
always the first one.
Right.
If I go into Google and I type in just pyramids, you're going to get pictures of Egypt.
Exactly.
The other ones I can think of is maybe Peru,
Mm-hmm.
South America, Central America.
Mm-hmm. Like Mexico,
Right,
the Mayan
right.
structures.
Mayan structures for sure.
There's definitely pyramids in China.
That has been recently talked about. That
Yes.
hasn't always been something that's out there.
Dr. Sam Osmanagic has got pictures to show in his presentations that, yes, they do exist.
Mm-hmm.
And they're largely consisted of clay, clay binding material, which he goes into in his presentation, which is funny enough, because when he goes to the Bosnian pyramids, they also have some clay structures as well, which is quite fascinating. But there's also pyramids scattered all around the world. I mean, he's discovered pyramids in the Canary Islands, all over Africa, and even most notably the pyramids in Italy, which people don't like to talk about. And specifically, when I say the pyramids in Italy, and apparently they're called the Monte Vecchia pyramids, and I'm definitely butchering that. And it's literally got the same layout as the Egyptian pyramids of Giza.
And by that, what do you mean?
I mean the 3 pyramid structure, the large, the 2 smaller ones, and also reflects what looks like the Orion's belt. Now, specifically where those pyramids are located apparently are in the Vincenzo de Gregorio in Italy. So that's something that you can definitely research as well. So yeah, there are pyramids all over this place, and nobody really knows for certainty who built the pyramids of Giza, let alone every other pyramid structure, with the exception of the most recent ones that were built by the Mayans and stuff, because those are obviously known because those were the most recent ones built, in my opinion.
You think which ones are?
The Mayan pyramids. Because they're the most recent culture to adopt that knowledge. Where they got that knowledge from, I don't know. But I honestly believe that they had the same teachers as the rest of them. You know? So what Dr. Osmanagic believes is that these pyramids were precursors to Nikola Tesla's idea of free energy, which is quite interesting in itself. Now, he's discovered that same cavern that you were talking about, which Claude alludes to being the halls of Amenti, has evidence of water erosion, because I know exactly what you're talking about. And the reason why that's significant is because the water erosion, or the water in that cavern, would hit and bounce against the roof or under the bottom of the pyramid, which would cause vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, vibrations would cause electromagnetic energy.
Fields?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same thing that happens in the Bosnian pyramids as well. And he's also noticed that there were these ceramic structures that look like sort of like sculptures,
Mm-hmm.
and they did some penetrating radar stuff on there, some low-key stuff, but they were just to see what it was made out of, is there anything buried into it, and they noticed that there was this egg-shaped thing buried or covered amongst this ceramic thing that's right underneath the water table that's underneath that Bosnian pyramid. And it appears that whenever the water hits the bottom side of that pyramid, it causes vibrations, which then sends these noises or these vibrations towards the top of the pyramid. Now, apparently, another thing that's strange about the pyramids all across the world is a lot of the tops are missing. It's almost like somebody took a key component of those pyramids, either purposefully or people have pillaged them because they're normally made out of gold or gold-plated limestone, and they're missing. It's like literally taking the keys to the car and nobody has it. So I mean, I'm sorry that I'm going all over the place on this, but yeah, it's definitely interesting stuff. And the more you uncover what's going on with the Bosnian pyramids, the more we understand what's going on with the rest of the pyramids.
So you said, I remember in the Bosnian pyramids there were like a clean water source under there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm referring to.
That's perfectly healthy to drink. You don't need to treat it in any way.
Yeah, they send it to independent scientists in different countries, and they all come back that it's definitely doesn't have any pathogens in it.
And was it high in oxygen, or was that not?
I couldn't tell you what the chemical components were. All I know is that it was uber clean. And what's funny enough is that when you go down to this chamber, apparently it's almost like a healing chamber, because you just naturally start to feel better when you're down there. And they've done aura studies where people have taken photos of their auras or however they do that before and after that, and they can see where their auras are broken around their body, wherever they're having trouble, whether it's stress related, around their chest, or physically hurting, like in their knees or their elbows and stuff like that. And you're able to see where the aura is broken in those spots.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And then when you go into there, you start to feel better, and when you come out, they do another reading, and you can see that you've been restored. So that's quite amazing.
So it has healing effects.
So it definitely does.
Now, is that located in the bottom chamber where that resonator is?
Yeah, I believe it's right under the resonator.
Now, aren't they still, because I remember watching a video on this on YouTube, aren't they still excavating that pyramid?
Yes, and he's looking for help big time. I wish I could devote my time. So if you guys want to donate enough money so that way my kids don't go hungry while I go over there and try and help, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, he's definitely looking for help, because he's been fighting tooth and nail trying to get this thing done. I mean, he even had the Ministry of I believe it was like tourism of Bosnia,
Mm-hmm.
go flip-flop on him and back him and then not back him, and you have to actually go through court in order to get rights to excavate the Pyramid of the Moon that they discovered. What's funny enough is that when you take a look at these pyramids around the world, they all share the same layouts. Why is that? That's definitely crazy.
Well, that's another thing that I'm glad you brought up, because I wanted to hit on that too, because this kind of goes back to our other discussion from last Sunday when we were talking about dissecting your own YouTube videos when you watch them. Find out the information that they're talking about and do your research, because there's a lot of controversy on how all these pyramids are lining up. And then if geometrically, if you were to draw lines through each of the pyramids, they all line up with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think that that's possible to do with anything, or do you think that there is something to all the pyramids lining up? There's something to all the geometry behind them. Because, I feel like with geometry, maybe it's possible to kind of manipulate the data.
Sort of like statistics. You can make the numbers tell you
right.
Right. And I was actually thinking that same thing. I'm like, what makes it... Where's your marker from the alignment?
Right.
How does that work out? Because, if I look at the doorknob from here, I can say that my laptop is aligned to that doorknob. But if I move over here, is it really all that aligned?
Right, and what he's doing is he's sitting at the center of his laptop and then moving to the left of his laptop.
Yeah.
And from each angle...
For those who can't see.
Right. and to address that, eventually we want to have cameras in here so you can see us talking while we're podcasting.
So you can see my pretty face.
But that is a good point. It's going to depend on your perspective. Now, what I've seen is that they were able to zoom out of the Earth, and they drew a line wrapped around the Earth, and it literally lined up all of the pyramids, known pyramids, and they were all in a perfect line. Now, yeah, it could be what's the perspective of that, but if you have your circle enclosed, your perspective is going to be from the beginning of the pyramid that you started. So if you have a pyramid in Egypt, and then there's a second pyramid that's, straight north and then west and then east, you're not going to have a straight line, right? But if you have a straight line going all the way around, like an equator almost, is how it was depicted. I find that fascinating, but there's other people out there that would not find that very fascinating. And
to be completely honest with you, I haven't done enough research in that aspect of things to come up with a conclusion or my theory on that. But if that is the truth, I wonder where the Bosnian pyramids would fit in that arc.
That's what I was wondering too, and that's kind of where I was getting at. I would be curious to see these newly discovered ones. I know that the ones in China line up with this drawing. In these videos that I'm referencing to you guys, I'm going to try to put them out as well. I'm going to try to put a clip of it on our website. Also, any other YouTube videos that we find from this discussion, I'll put out there.
Now, what's funny about the whole resonance thing, creating energy, that's what Nikola Tesla was working on before his project was destroyed by J.P. Morgan, because he basically tried to swindle J.P. Morgan out of money in order to pay for the device, but didn't disclose what the device was for. Well, J.P. Morgan was definitely involved in power. He was definitely involved in the energy sources. So Nikola Tesla was wanting to provide this kind of service for free, while J.P. Morgan wanted to make money out of it. So draw your own conclusions from that.
Well, didn't Nikola Tesla say that the bell or the earth rings like a bell?
He sure did. And another quote of Nikola Tesla says, because I believe that guy was a genius, he says that if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now, if you guys don't understand what the symbol is that we use for our logo, that's the frequency of 3,240 hertz.
Yes.
Which makes that geometric shape. So sounds make shapes. And obviously our ancestors, our ancient ancestors knew this, and that secret has been lost for a while. Speaking of which, that leads me to my next topic. A lot of people don't know about Dr. Royal Raymond Rife and the Rife machine. Dr. Royal Raymond Rife was another genius that found that using frequencies on viruses and bacteria, that he could terminate their existence, meaning kill off these viruses and bacteria, meaning that he could actually kill the bad cells while leaving the healthy cells intact because they were not vibrating on the same frequencies. As we all know, that this is well-documented science, that the Earth vibrates, everything exists with a certain frequency. I think the Earth is vibrating at 6 hertz. The Bosnian Pyramids, I believe, is vibrating at 7 hertz. And when you convert that to audible frequencies for us to hear, it makes quite an interesting sound. It's crazy. And they've even translated that frequency sound to piano keys, and it makes a crazy sounding song. But that's in a whole other topic. That's definitely way off topic that I want to get on. But apparently Dr. Royal Rife was able to treat virtually all diseases.
So what was he doing? Was he trying to find the frequency for that specific disease that he was trying to cure?
There was no try. He actually did.
Right, but what he was doing was finding different frequencies.
Yes. I mean, I believe it was the American Medical Association sent on over a group of patients. About 85% of them he was able to cure with the frequencies that he already knew of. The other 15%, he couldn't right away, but he dialed into those frequencies, and then 100% of those participants ended up getting cured. Well, that drew the attention. He wasn't going unnoticed of the American Medical Association, and they wanted to, I believe it was the American Medical Association. The California American Medical Association. There it is, right there. And you can find this information on www.royal-rife.com. So that way you can see where I'm getting the information from. So they did try to buy out what he was using, his technology, his notes, and he refused to do so because he felt that it was going to go into the wrong hands. Because once you're able to cure all diseases, there's no real money in curing diseases anymore, is there?
No.
What ended up happening to Dr. Royal Rife was definitely sad. His laboratory ended up getting destroyed, burned in a fire, equipment stolen.
Now,
sounds a lot like Nikola Tesla, doesn't it?
Yeah, and was it quote-unquote burned in a fire? Or was it they actually went in there and destroyed it? Or was the official report that his laboratory caught on fire and nothing was saved?
To be completely honest with you, there's not enough information that I could find on there that gives a straight story on it. But what I can tell you is that what happened after his death, there was a group of scientists that put on a banquet in their honor. Dr. Milbank Johnson, who held the banquet in Dr. Rife's honor, was actually about to announce the results of the 1934 study of the 16 cancer patients who were reportedly cured. However, he never got to make that announcement because it's reported that just hours before making the announcement, he was fatally poisoned and his papers were quote-unquote lost. Now, about his report...
well, before we go to that report, I just want to stop and take a moment to everybody listening to this and to everybody that thinks that conspiracy theories are crazy. That what you just read is crazy to me. Because conspiracies happen, am I correct?
Yeah.
And if we're talking about a pharmaceutical business that is a multi-billion-dollar business, we can't be having no machine going around curing 100% of people.
No.
It's just not going to happen.
No, not at all. But as far as his work in laboratory, it looks like it's reported that Morris Fishbein, sole stockholder of the American Medical Association, tried unsuccessfully to buy the rights to the Rife machines. Soon afterwards, written records, stop-motion photographs, film, and other evidence of Rife's work began disappearing. Part of his universal microscopes, nearly 6,000 pieces, went missing. It's reported that the police then entered his laboratory, ransacked it, and took the rest of his research records. So that's crazy. It looks like there's a doctor by the name of Nemes, Dr. Nemes, Dr. Nemes, who had duplicated some of Rife's experiments, was killed in a suspicious fire. His records were also destroyed in the fire as well.
Was he working with the doctor?
No, I think he just thought of the same or heard of the same theories and tried to replicate it and was obviously getting too close. So that's definitely crazy. Looks like, if I remember correctly...
Excuse me.
Let's see here, where was this? Apparently there's a lot of doctors that originally claimed to work with Dr. Royal Rife, and then they claimed to have never met him afterwards.
So they didn't want anything to do with that.
Yeah. I'm trying to find exactly where that was, where I read that, but it's definitely crazy.
Excuse me, sorry guys that I'm coughing. I'm kind of fighting a cold here.
No, he's definitely faking it. Sympathy.
I just like to cough on mic.
But yeah, so...
so does it describe what the machine was exactly? And how he was curing his patients? I know that he was using frequencies, but I'm curious to know what maybe the description of the machine was.
Let's take a look here.
And what I think is funny is I'm pretty sure that they got their hands on the machine and they locked it away for
to be completely honest with you, I can't find anything on the description of it. Let's see here. Yeah, let's see here. The experiment was reported in 1934. An experiment was reportedly conducted that did show that the Rife machine cured cancer. It is commonly reported that a special medical research committee was formed at the University of Southern California. The committee consisted of medical doctors and pathologists. It is reported that they brought 16 terminally ill cancer patients who were near death from Pasadena County Hospital to the laboratory of Dr. Rife to be treated with the Rife frequency generator. The plan was for the patients to be examined in 90 days if they were still alive. Reports are that after 90 days, the patients were examined and 14 of them were declared cured. The other 2 stayed at the laboratory. Their treatments were intensified. 4 weeks later, those 2 were also declared cured.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's definitely crazy. Oh, geez. And did you see that they have these websites now where they're showing the Mars rover pictures?
Yeah, where the one where I saw the one where he dug into the base of that mountain, supposedly. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. But I was more talking about the images directly from NASA that show formations on what look to show like monoliths and stuff like that on Mars. And there's these 3 pyramids that look like they're pyramids. I mean, from any angle that I can see.
Do you have it pulled up?
I do have it pulled up.
Let me come over here.
Take a look here, and you can actually see that it actually shows similar layout.
Oh, wow.
Similar layout as the Orion's belt, as they do on Earth, as it is in heaven.
Yeah, it does.
So I went through not just these pictures, but I went through some more pictures of the Star City on Mars. You see that?
Yeah, now, it definitely looks like structures.
And we're talking about geometric shapes.
Right.
Trapezoids, triangles, circles.
That would be pretty hard to replicate in nature, correct?
Yeah, I don't know of any triangle or trapezoid-shaped asteroids hitting.
Right. That's
anywhere.
fascinating.
Yeah. So there's Mars riverbeds, and these are all pictures directly from Mars. Here goes one that looks like a monolith, and I'm getting this from paranormal.about.com.
I'll have the link posted with the podcast when we post it a little bit later tonight.
Yeah, definitely the ones that look here like Mars seashells. What here looks like a seashell buried.
Definitely does.
There's one that looks like a binder. Mars Biostation Alpha. That's weird looking. Let's see here. Mars turtle. Looks like a piece of crap. It doesn't look like a turtle to me. It looks like a giant space turd. There goes the Mars binder. That could be a rock.
Yeah, definitely.
Whether or not that is a binder, I don't know. It looks more like a rock to me, or a plausible rock. If somebody was to debunk that one and say, yeah, that's definitely a rock, I would be more inclined to believe that. However, there are some other structures on there that seem rather crazy, and I'm trying to scroll over to this one here. Look at that, the Martian finger looks like it's got a fingernail and everything.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I've never seen that one until today. Let's see, Mars rodent. That one was definitely crazy. That one looks like a little squirrel without a bushy tail. And then we've got Mars shiny metal object, which I don't even know what that is. That looks like a hand holding a car. if you ask me.
I mean, it definitely looks like a shiny object, though.
Yeah, it definitely does. There goes a supposed bridge structure on Mars.
Now, is this coming from NASA?
Here's where I'm going to show you the direct links to NASA. There's a supposed thigh bone. Here's image 26 of 26. This is the one that I can definitely say definitely came from NASA. This right here is what they call the Martian totem pole. It almost looks like a traffic light or an ornate structure or statue of some sort. It kind of looks like a totem pole or a broken piece of a building. You know, something that was obviously designed, because it does not look like a natural structure at all, and it's got some shadows. Now this one 100% certainly came from NASA, because it actually even has a link underneath where you can see the original NASA image, and there it is right there in the corner.
Oh yeah.
I
mean, it definitely doesn't look like it was made from nature.
And the thing is that I believe that when scientists look at stuff like this, they take a look at the surrounding area to see if there's anything similar of the sort, to see if the materials match, especially when they were talking about the Roswell Rock, which is a crazy thing. If you guys want to know something crazy, try to research the Roswell Rock. That is definitely amazing stuff.
And what's that about?
The Roswell Rock?
Yeah. That
is a rock that was found near the crash site of Roswell, New Mexico. Apparently, either the quote-unquote aliens were looking for it, or it fell out of the craft. But it's this rock that appears to have been like molded. It looks like it was cut with like butter with a knife. You know, it's definitely perfectly sculpted, and it's got this design that people believe is like the same thing of saying "as above, so below," because it's got like a mirror image of the sun, the moon, and what appears to be the Earth. And that rock has magnetic properties, and it literally has a magnetic north and a magnetic south. But the strongest part of that magnetic field is actually in the symbol itself, not around the outside of the park. Now, if you watch Giorgio Tsoukalos's show In Search of Aliens, they do an in-depth scrutiny of that rock. They do definite scientific tests, and they took a look at the area where he found it to see if there's any rocks of similar nature, and there was nothing like this rock anywhere on Earth, let alone in that pile of rocks where he found it in. So whenever I take a look at this Martian totem pole, there's absolutely nothing around there that looks like this structure other than the color of that structure, because it's been beaten so hard by cosmic rays and the...
So do you think that there was definitely civilization on Mars, or still is?
Yeah, whether or not there still is, I don't know, and I can't say. What I honestly believe in my heart is that yes, there absolutely 100% was a civilization on Mars. Whether or not they retreated underground or they've migrated to the Earth a long time ago, and that's probably why we're here building the same kind of structures. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. One thing I wanted to bring up so I could correct. We sent the robot through those shafts in 1992, going back to the pyramids. But apparently, it looks like that those shafts were actually discovered in 1872.
Oh, what do you know?
So everything that's been discovered was never prophesied by the Emerald Tablets. Everything that's been discovered was discovered in 1872.
Yeah, but then again, they also do rediscoveries, right?
They do rediscoveries, but this leads me to believe that the Emerald Tablets... And guys, when we say this, please understand that we are definitely open-minded. We definitely know that we have no clue. Not we, but as a society, as a world.
And even us, too, have no clue what's going on. We're just trying to put the pieces together.
Yeah, this is, like we've always said, this is a learning thing for all of us. But we don't have everything figured out, but one red flag that me and Sam always gets thrown is when someone claims to be a psychic and when someone claims to channel something. And the reason why is because there's so many fraudsters out there. There's so many people out there that will claim to be able to do this, and they can't. One of the biggest, and not biggest, but one of the good examples, better examples, is the Joe Rogan Questions Everything, his science show that he went out and did.
I remember that. That lasted like 2 episodes.
Yeah, well, I guess they're thinking about coming back with another season, but what's fascinating is when he found these people that had these extraordinary claims, and then he actually went to go visit them. Well, magically, they can't perform these extraordinary claims. Now, I believe in a lot of stuff. I have an open mind on a lot of things.
But it's not so open that your brain's going to fall out.
Right. You also have to have some common sense. Now, I think that maybe possibly psychic abilities are possible. And by that, I mean if you get dreams about a possible future event, or you have a vision about something. I definitely believe in those things. But there's just so many people out there that are claiming to be something that they're not, that I would have to have some really, really hard evidence to believe it. And going back to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, right now that evidence is just not there. There's too many holes in the story to believe it. Like Sam said, it's a great read. I believed it in the beginning myself until Sam told me to do some digging. This person's also wrote about UFOs and aliens and Atlantis, and
he's been known to tell some stories. And believe me, the Emerald Tablets, that's a nice story.
Right, it's a good story, but unfortunately that's all it is. So.
Now, I know we're coming close to the end of our time here, but one thing I definitely wanted to hit on was the face of Machu Picchu.
Okay, what's that about?
Okay, so we all know, well, you guys probably don't all know, but if you've ever watched Ancient Aliens or anything like that, Machu Picchu is a big site. And if you take a look at an aerial view of Machu Picchu and the mountain structures next to it, and you take a good look at it, it almost looks like a face protruding from the earth. Now, they've got, literally all you need to do is go to Bing.com and search in Machu Picchu face mountain, and you'll see the pictures for yourself. Now, some of them look more detailed than the others, and if you really take a closer look, you can see that that's because that's a closer shot of it. I don't believe that any of these are photoshopped at all. Because, I mean, you can look at all of them and they all look pretty much exactly the same. And if you guys don't know how to spell Machu Picchu, that's M-A-C-H-U, P-I-C-C-H-U. And you just look at the pictures for yourself. Dr. Osmanagic believes that that's the face of the builders of the pyramids. And that's definitely an interesting...
You know what's also interesting about all that is that it seems like any time the ancients built something, they wanted it to be viewed from up above. Remember how there were in one of the deserts or in the mountains or whatever, there was the landing strip.
The Nazca lines?
Yeah, and then also there were like the person waving and the monkey and the spider.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me that it seems like a lot of the stuff that they did, they wanted it to be viewed from the air, and I find that crazy.
Yeah, and speaking of Nazca, if you guys want to research something crazy, because I love looking up crazy stuff, try to research the Paracas of Peru, the Paracas people. They have the elongated skulls. Now, people try to say, or mainstream scientists try to say, that it's due to forming of the skull using boards. Now, some cultures have been known to do that, but they were replicating something. They were trying to look and emulate like powerful people. And when you take a look at those skulls don't have sutures in the right place. The volume, the sheer volume of these skulls are extremely different than normal people. So that's definitely something that you should look up.
And they've done comparisons on the sutures to people that's binded their skulls to these other skulls that they've found.
Yeah, I mean, because a human skull can only grow to a certain extent, no matter what shape it is. The volume of the brain is not going to change. when you take a look at these skulls from the Paracas people, they have a definite different size in the volume. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but it's definitely crazy. And like I always say, do your own research. Look at it for yourself. Take your own eyes into account, because that's the only way that you're going to learn. To be completely honest with you, that's the only way that I've learned.
And not only that, but don't just take one source. You might want to go through a couple sources, because you might find sources that are going to counter what you've just read, and it might kind of challenge your belief. And one thing that I've always thought is nobody has it figured out. Not even the scientists have it figured out.
Oh yeah.
How many times have eggs been good for you, then caused high cholesterol that were bad for you, and now they're all of a sudden good?
Oh yeah, the eggs are good from my head down to my legs. I remember that campaign.
So I mean, there's a lot to find out. And like I said, that's what's going to be fun about this podcast, is that we're all learning together. We're all figuring stuff out together. So it's going to be a fun ride. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm flabbergasted at the amount of information that we were able to find in one day, let alone the week that we had in preparation for this research. So it's a fun ride, and you know what? You should find it fun as well, just because learning the truth always brings pleasure to everybody. In my opinion, it does, because I'll tell you what, when you find out who spilled the milk in your house, you're going to feel a lot better, because you know whose ass to kick. So I mean, that's a weird analogy. It just came out, but yeah, it's definitely fun to do.
Yeah, it is. All right, guys, this is kind of winding down the podcast here. I just like to say that, keep checking back on us. Every week, we're going to try to do this every Saturday, bring you a new episode. It'll be loaded up Saturday night or Sunday morning, somewhere around those times. So those are roughly what to expect. Yeah. But anyway, this is True Squad. I'm Eli.
And I'm Sam.
You guys have a good night.